Would you be
And
interested ever in joining politics? And what do you have to say about judges who didn't keep that little period of time between being a judge and then joining politics immediately?
I've looked at people who've been in politics over my career, and even before that, when I was a lawyer. And politics is very serious business, and it's a difficult art and science. And therefore, I respect those in the political spectrum of the nation for the kind of work which they do. In so many which ways, I feel that the work which I did as a judge or as a lawyer was in many ways so much easier because I was with myself, with my files, my books, my judgments, dealing with society. It's easier from a certain perspective, and it's far more difficult from a certain perspective. They're two different institutions in a democracy which we have to respect. But speaking for myself, it's a completely different universe. For instance, when I would speak to the law minister, when we'd be discussing judicial appointments, I'd always tell him that, with kind of schedules which you have of being all over the country, I wouldn't be able to ever do that. I mean, I love my time when I'm in my study, working on my briefs, working on my cases for the next day, working on judgments. That brings me real fulfillment as a human being. So they are two different lifestyles
So if
completely.
it's not for you, you're saying, but at present, maybe at some point of time it will be. But are you averse to the idea of judges joining politics? No.
I've answered this question historically. One of the greatest judges in India, Justice K. Subbarao, his judgments are cited even today before us, and he spoke with such perspicacity at the time when he wrote. He resigned from the Supreme Court to contest the presidential election. So, Justice Subbarao took a call to then contest the election. It was a different time. He lived in his times, and he took a decision which was perhaps valid from his point of view at that time. You've had other judges of the former judges of the Supreme Court who then contested elections. You've had judges from the high courts who've done that. My own belief, however, is this, that when you lay down office as a judge, people do continue to assess you from the standpoint of being regarded as a judge. And it's important that all judges who have occupied that post to understand that. Because in what you do after you cease to be a judge, you should not affect the credibility of the work which you did as a judge or the credibility of the institution which you occupied. I mean, what am I but for the fact that the judiciary has made me what I am today, former Chief Justice of India? I mean, take that away from me and I'd say, what am I left with? So, as a judge after retirement, as a former judge, I shouldn't be doing something which would bring any form of a credibility crisis to my own institution, which I have occupied.
Would that happen?
But I wouldn't at all criticize colleagues, former colleagues, who have taken an alternate path. It's for them to take a call. And I'm no one to criticize them.
But
Some of them.
by doing that, do you think that they've brought some kind of a disrepute or some kind of a questioning, at least, about the impartiality of the judicial system in India?
Well, to be very honest, I don't think I don't think it would be fair to say that their decisions post-retirement brought into question the decisions which they took while they were holding office.
Okay.
For the reason that a decision of the Supreme Court particularly is not a decision of one judge. It's a decision of a collective body of judges. It may be a decision of a bench of 2 judges, a judgment of 3 judges, of 5 or 7. To say that, well, because one of the judges on the bench after retirement joined politics brings the judgment into disrepute is casting aspersion on every other member of that bench as well. So it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
It doesn't work that way at all. Because after all, every decision that we take is being taken by a group of judges. And the more important constitutional cases by at least 5 judges, and sometimes 7 or sometimes 9. So to say that, well, that judge's decision post-retirement had some bearing on the decision which that judge took would be unfair a criticism, because that
Okay.
would be a criticism of all the other judges who are part of that bench.
So there's one
So
question
that is something which
Okay.
we must not ignore as well.
Click here to watch the full episode.